It was a crisp Saturday morning when billionaire James Whitmore decided to take a walk around his estate to check on the sprawling gardens and the quiet order of his mansion. Expecting the usual calm and pristine appearance that had become almost boring in its perfection. But as he strolled past the rows of roses and perfectly trimmed hedges, a burst of laughter floated through the air, sharp and clear, unlike anything he had heard in years. And he followed the sound curiously, his footsteps, slowing as he approached the center of the garden. And there, to his utter disbelief, he saw his new maid, Clarissa, bouncing his twin sons on her back, pretending to be a horse. And the boys were shrieking with joy, completely absorbed in the game, their little legs kicking in the air as she galloped around the lawn with astonishing energy, and the sight made him pause, unsure whether to intervene or simply watch this unusual scene, because he had never seen his children so openly happy with anyone in the household. And as he leaned slightly against a tree to hide his presence, he noticed how naturally Clarissa engaged with the boys, her voice soft yet commanding, asking them to imagine grand adventures, and he was drawn in by the warmth she radiated, a combination of patience and playful authority that seemed impossible for someone so young and new to his family. And then she knelt down to adjust one boy's shoelace and whispered encouragement to the other, who responded with a giggle that filled the garden like music. And at that moment James felt a pang of curiosity mixed with admiration, wondering what kind of life experience or upbringing had allowed Clarissa to understand children so deeply and connect with them so effortlessly. And he found himself asking silently, wherefrom were they watching her? Because the boys' eyes seemed wide with trust and admiration, as if they had discovered a secret guide who could make the world safe and exciting at the same time. And that question lingered in his mind, echoing with the realization that he had never before encountered anyone who could hold his children's attention so completely, while also teaching them lessons about courage, honesty, and imagination without ever seeming to lecture. And as Clarissa resumed the game, lifting one son onto her shoulders and spinning gently as the other pretended to lead a charge with an imaginary sword, James noticed how calm and confident she remained, never faltering, never raising her voice, and yet commanding the complete devotion of his children in a way he had long thought impossible. And he marveled at her ability to balance fun and guidance simultaneously, knowing that the boys were not just playing, but absorbing values she imparted naturally. And he watched as she asked them questions about their imaginary adventures, encouraging them to think creatively, to take responsibility for their roles in the game, and to support each other. And James realized that the laughter and shouts he had initially found surprising were actually a sign of a rare and genuine connection forming. And he felt a strange mixture of awe and relief that someone like Clarissa had come into their lives, someone who could not only entertain, but also nurture and inspire. And as he stepped slightly closer to get a better view, he silently acknowledged that this moment, brief and unexpected though it was, might change his family forever, because in Clarissa he had discovered a kind of magic he hadn't known existed in real people. And he wanted to understand more about her, about how she could see and respond to his sons' hearts so effortlessly. And he felt a deep curiosity building within him to learn everything about the young woman who had suddenly become the most important person in the garden that morning, a presence that seemed to hold wisdom, joy, and courage all at once. And he realized he would never look at a simple game of pretend the same way again. Still hidden behind the tall hedge, James Whitmore watched as Clarissa gently lowered one of his sons to the grass while spinning the other around in her arms, her laughter blending with the boys' giggles in a way that made the entire garden feel alive and almost magical. And he noticed how her every movement seemed deliberate yet effortless, how she communicated with them through gestures, tones, and expressions that made his usually shy and cautious children burst with confidence and happiness. And as she knelt down to tie the laces of one son's shoes, she looked up at him briefly, almost sensing his presence even though he had been careful to remain unseen. And he felt a mixture of curiosity and admiration, realizing that she possessed a rare ability to read people, especially children, and respond to their emotions instinctively. And then she stood, holding both boys' hands, and asked them, "Who wants to be the brave knight, and who wants to protect the castle?" And the boys immediately responded, shouting their roles with excitement, completely absorbed in her guidance and encouragement. And James was struck by the natural authority she commanded without ever raising her voice or demanding obedience. And as the game continued, she introduced small lessons about honesty, teamwork, and courage, subtly weaving them into the pretend battles and adventures, making the children think, question, and laugh at the same time. And James could not help but marvel at how effortlessly she taught them values he had spent years trying to instill through strict schedules and formal lessons. And he realized with growing awe that the boys were learning more in these few moments of play than they ever had in weeks of structured activities. And his heart swelled as he watched them imitate her gestures, echo her words, and respond to her guidance with complete trust. And then Clarissa paused, looked toward the horizon, and asked softly, "Remember that even the bravest knights must always listen and speak the truth." And James felt a sudden pang of emotion, realizing that his children were internalizing wisdom in a way he had never witnessed before. And he wondered if he had underestimated the importance of simple human connection and genuine attention in their upbringing. And in that instant, he knew that Clarissa's influence would shape his son's character more profoundly than any tutor, any formal lesson, or any wealth could. And as the game resumed, she encouraged the boys to create their own stories, to imagine their own victories, and to support each other in the challenges they invented, all while maintaining a sense of safety, laughter, and respect that made the children beam with pride and excitement. And James felt a deep gratitude that someone like her had come into their lives, someone who could balance discipline with joy, authority with tenderness, and guidance with freedom. And he realized that this moment, seemingly simple and ordinary, was in fact extraordinary, because it revealed a rare gift in Clarissa, a combination of intelligence, intuition, empathy, and creativity that could not be taught. And as he finally stepped forward into the open, his presence revealed, Clarissa looked at him without fear or embarrassment, but with the calm assurance of someone who knew her worth and the value of what she had given to his sons. And James felt his heart freeze for a moment as he realized the truth he had long suspected but never seen so clearly, that this young Maid had not only won the trust of his children, but had done so in a way that transformed their hearts, their laughter, and their confidence. And he whispered, almost to himself, how could someone so humble wield such influence so naturally? And Clarissa, with a gentle smile and unwavering gaze, answered simply, "It is not about power. It is about care and presence." And James felt a wave of awe and humility wash over him, knowing that he had just witnessed something far more valuable than any fortune, a human connection that would shape his children's lives forever. And he silently vowed that from this day forward, he would honor her impact, protect her, and allow her to continue being the guiding light that had brought joy, courage, and love back into his home, a force no money could replicate and no rule could control.